March 21st, 2021, Life in the Fastlane. This is the Wrestling WINC Podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined by Alfred Konuwa and Justin LaBar, here to talk about the Fastlane pay-per-view on the road to WrestleMania. Thank God it's out of the way. It's like we made the last road stop. I took a long road trip last week. You take that last stop and you say, I'm getting back in the car, and when I get out of the car again, I'm going to be at my destination. That's what tonight felt like.
I can't relate to that. I tell everybody in the car, you're holding it, pack your snacks. I'm not getting out until I get there. There are no stops between the starting point and the ending point.
Oh, Justin, we got to talk off the air about this. So I took a COVID road trip last weekend. I had everything I needed in my car. I did not set foot in another establishment. And when I stopped, I got back in my own vehicle and just kept going. As I said, Friday, to some things that were not on my bucket list, but strangely involved a bucket. It was a very efficient road trip. I think we should swap some notes. I think you could really step up your family's game. It's
300 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas. It's dark. And we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it. That's me. That's my style. Oh, and half a pack of cigarettes.
Yes. Alfred, what'd you think of tonight?
I like this pay-per-view. If we're going to stay with these road trip analogy, it's like when you stop to go to a 7-Eleven and you're like, oh, this is one of the 7-Elevens with the peach rings. This is better than I thought it would be. So I actually liked this pay-per-view. I think it peaked a little early, but I still like the main event. And I don't have too much negative to say about this pay-per-view, but we will get into it.
I'm sorry. I was just saying, I'm not going to go with the road trip analogy. I'm going to go with the sponsor analogy. Fastlane was presented by Old Spice. Smell ready for anything, and this had a strong odor of inevitability, of redundancy. And I've always subscribed to. It doesn't always have to be a swerve, bro. Sometimes predictable is fine if it's logical, and a lot of the predictability tonight was logical, but it was not needed for a 3-hour pay-per-view special. You could have made some really nice Raw and SmackDown segments. I almost wonder if tonight was done. So they could do like a trial run on Peacock to say this is, they don't want WrestleMania to be.
That's the only reason. I mean, that's my major takeaway. That's the only reason this pay-per-view existed. Nothing on this pay-per-view happened that needed to happen. I didn't see anybody say they had technical problems with Peacock. I don't know if you guys heard different, but yeah, it did very much come off like a trial. So I was just judging it based on the pay-per-view itself. I thought it was a fine pay-per-view, but I agree. It was definitely something that was not needed.
Yeah. And this was only on premium. This was not on the free version of Peacock, or Freecock, as we've dubbed it now on the Wrestling WINC Podcast.
Well, I mean, I did see people. I had no problems. I had not one buffering. I was watching. I still pay for Xfinity cable, so I have it just by speaking in the remote. I can just say Peacock, and it was on the main dashboard of there. But I did see other people who maybe were watching from an app that they had to download on a smart TV or somewhere else. And I saw people saying audio was dropping in and out, pictures freezing. Some people were still able to watch it. You could still watch it technically on the WWE network. You could pause, fast forward, and rewind, which is a big flaw I saw of Peacock's tonight. But everybody that tweeted that to me, I said, well, enjoy it, because in 2 weeks, that's going to go dark. You're not going to be able to do that anymore. So you better get used to this Peacock experience or Freecock experience.
Yes, I ripped off the Band-Aid. I canceled my subscription, said I've never forgiven you for canceling Swerved, and in the comments, and then I deleted the app, and I haven't looked back since.
You're still bitter over the Swerved, huh?
Oh, such a good show. And my favorite thing about Swerved, much like the Jamie Kennedy experiment, when they told somebody they were a part of a joke, they had to explain to them what Swerved was. And you could tell, based on the confidence the wrestler had, how much detail they went into about what Swerved was, when they could tell, like, this person has no clue what it is. Like, Swerved on the WWE network. The WWE, I'm a WWE superstar. Here's my name. I know you don't recognize me. Like, Swerved is an interesting piece of performance art when you look at it from that perspective.
Wow, that's the best commercial for Swerved I've ever heard. I've got to go back and check this out, because I didn't watch one episode of it.
Oh, it's a low-stakes prank reality show that they put maybe like 20% effort into. Vince McMahon like dresses up as a security guard and tries to like punk people. Everybody who knows it's Vince McMahon, everyone coming in the building is like, oh, this is Vince doing a bit. We better humor him.
Yeah. His secretary sent a memo to everybody the night before. Play along, please.
He really wants to do this, guys.
Right.
Yeah. It's something else. Swerved, better than most things we've seen on WWE television lately. But tonight was okay. I mean, we had something for everyone. It was there.
It got better as we went on, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Antoine Fair, $5 saying thanks WWE for making your monster heel look like a B word.
Which one?
Great goddamn job. Oh, Braun.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Braun's the monster heel.
Yeah, I mean, he did get a win. He looked pretty dominant for most parts. I didn't like how much he sold for Elias, but I wouldn't say that he looked like a B word.
Are we sure that's the monster heel he's talking about?
Yeah, I don't. Maybe he's talking about how the Fiend
Roman.
looked, or okay. I see. He's talking about Roman. Yeah, I mean, but that was kind of the story they were telling with this. I'm not surprised to see Roman tap out in some capacity because I think it would have made Daniel Bryan lose credibility if this babyface is saying how he's going to tap out Roman Reigns and he doesn't end up doing it after putting his finisher on Roman for a lot of this match.
Yeah.
I didn't think Roman looked like a bit. I mean, I thought, look, Roman. I know we'll get to it in depth, but Roman went 30 minutes with arguably the best wrestler in the world. And great story told and everything going on here. And it got to the point where Daniel Bryan, who's this deserving guy to be in the main event of WrestleMania, story of his life, just continued to be able to sidestep him, move out of the way of a spear, was able to reverse hold. I don't think Roman looked like a bit. I just think it looked like Roman met a very worthy adversary. Yeah, Jey Uso comes in and helps him, but that's just typical heel 101. That's not, I didn't think anything more of that. But.
So, Alfred, to you first, do they turn this into a triple threat or worse, fatal four-way at WrestleMania?
My gut tells me it will be a triple threat because Reg seems like he's headed to being a heel. I don't know how he moves forward as a babyface in this feud, just based on his actions tonight and how he's been acting leading up. So I don't know how they're going to do this, but I do see a triple threat. There's just too little time left to WrestleMania to build something for Daniel Bryan, and I could see a triple threat. And based on how they're telling the story, I wouldn't have a problem with the triple threat match at WrestleMania.
Justin.
Yeah, this is part of the inevitable I talked about. I mean, they had Daniel Bryan this involved in this storyline. And you're 3 weeks out from Mania. You're not just going to discard him and expect that he's going to be in an Andre Battle Royal. I mean, so it was kind of inevitable. I mean, again, I'm fine with how they executed it. Edge is, Adam Pearce or somebody of authority is going to come to Edge and say, look, we saw it. Roman tapped. Daniel Bryan should be our new champion, but you came in and let emotion get better of you. You hit him with the chair. So I'm sorry, but you just screwed yourself. You have two people you have to contend with in order to win this title. So I'm fine with the execution, but yeah, this was inevitable. There was no other alternative to come out of this show. Yeah, other than the triple threat.
Alejandro Villarreal, $5, saying Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt look like a combination between Annabelle and Boogeyman. Drew versus Sheamus made no sense. Should have added a stipulation.
Yeah,
agreed.
And we'll talk about Bray. People are going to be surprised with what I have to say about Bray and Alexa tonight. Midnight Toker, $5, saying tonight felt like an episode of Raw. I mean, a good episode of Raw.
Yeah.
A better episode of Raw.
Oh, this is a much better 3 hours than we have to deal with on Monday.
Combo Breaker, $1.99. They need to fix that Peacock delay. I heard Peacock was 60 seconds behind tonight.
Wow.
I saw that too. Somebody put a screenshot, several people put screenshots side by side of what the network feed was, and it would be like a whole entrance difference than what Peacock was showing. But.
And that is not cool. Like, I don't want to be behind.
Especially if you're following and going on Twitter and you're seeing people like reacting to a finish and you're like, wait a minute, I'm still on the lockup.
I knew Seth Rollins won at least a minute before I saw it.
It's terrible. Although you could play some prop bets with like your friends watching on Peacock.
This is exactly what I think is going to happen, guys.
Yeah, $50. Who wants to bet me? Who wants to bet me? Ryan W., if you thought they couldn't book The Fiend before, how the hell are they going to book this iteration? I don't know. Krana Shaw, $2. Hey, Krana, saying, thoughts what Rhea does tomorrow night on Raw? She has to be facing Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship, right? At Mania?
I could see that. I see a squash match tomorrow. I see her hopefully they don't do that thing where they do with new people where they just make her go forever like they did with Damian Priest with like Dana Brooke or something like that. But I could just see her going in there, showcasing her moves and doing a minute squash. Yeah,
possibly. That could be it. I mean, it is interesting to have somebody debut on a brand again 20 days prior to Mania. That's normally reserved for right after Mania. And you've held her off this long after she was drafted to Raw. So yeah, I wonder. And I wonder too. Charlotte obviously. I don't know if I missed this, but I had some people tell me today that Charlotte's advertisements for Mania have been pulled. Is that true? Have you?
She's been moved from the WrestleMania posters. The new ones that they're using do not have her. They're the exact same poster, but with no Charlotte. So it's very curious.
So two things popped to mind then. One on very opposite sides of the spectrum. One, and they both involve her her boyfriend or fiance Andrade, who we've been exclusively reporting, who requested his release, got denied it. Then he tweeted earlier today some good news. We don't yet know what the good news is. At least I don't know. Maybe Raj does. So opposites on the spectrum. Either one, good news. Maybe they're having a baby. Maybe they're having family. So that could be good news of why you'd pull her obviously out of in-ring competition. Or the very opposite is his beef has now bled into her beef.
Which would be very weird that they would want to let that happen.
Yeah, but I mean, we kind of discussed. Alfred and I talked about this a little bit on Wednesday. It's like when you have what a weird dynamic. Like you're in a household and you both work for the same employer, and one of you is so disgruntled that you want your release, and the other one is one of the pillars that the company builds around. That's to not let that come in to be personal animosity, to not let that ruin your at home vibe. That's a tall task.
Yeah. There's a lot of couples throughout wrestling where one's in AEW, one's in WWE, but there probably isn't a discrepancy between how ingrained somebody is in WWE and how on the outs they are than Charlotte and Andrade. So I could see that leading to some friction. And who knows? This is just too much of a coincidence for me that Charlotte's being removed. I don't know if there's anything to this, but it's something to keep your eye on, I think.
Yeah. Antoine Fair clarifying. Anton, you didn't have to spend $5. Antoine meant Roman.
Thank you,
Monster
Antoine.
heel, looking like the B word. Brett Murphy, $5, saying if you can make a better storyline, make Sasha win at Mania, beat the crap out of Bianca afterwards, continue the storyline for another couple months. Bianca needs to win at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about. We're not even getting into this yet. So many super chats tonight, you guys. Rajagiri taking that off and just hearing cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Jen and S, $2. How long will the Fiend rock this look? Mania. I'm not a huge fan. I hope this is short-lived. So just a couple more. Sacred Monkey Bone, $2. No Edge should Mania spot night 1 versus Bryan now. Oh, and then night 2 versus Roman. That would be interesting. And then Antoine Fair, $5 saying, listen, if I've been saying I'm big and I'm bad and my family has to jump in, my enemy has to hit my opponents and I tap, that's being a bee in my hood. There you go.
Well, this is the hood of pro wrestling, and you're meant to be. If you're a heel, you're allotted a certain amount of chicken shit, phone of friends.
Antoine, use another super chat to shout out your hood, please.
T-Spitty, $3,005 is crazy. Reginald's protected more than both Sasha and Bianca. Reginald is the star. Carmella's the Janetti of the Reginald Carmella pairing.
Oof.
No, that's how they're booking it.
Yeah.
Like, where's Carmella? What's she doing? Reginald's getting the hot spot,
I'm with you, Glenn. This is one of those this is probably the smallest thing in wrestling that pisses me off as much as it does. That this seemed like there was some inner working. Carmella and Reginald have some plan, and that's why Reginald is going away from Carmella for now. But this seems like a legit breakup, and I thought it was so terribly done based on all they invested in the rollout of Carmella, and you're going to just kind of discard her, and this comedy figure is going to kind of rise to the top. It seems so unorganized to me.
Unless this is a Karate Kid 3 situation and they want us to think she's like Kreese and then Reginald's the Terry Silver of the situation and Carmella's going to pop back up out of nowhere and freak out her opponents.
Glenn, I promise you, you have just thought more about how we are positioning Reginald than Vince has at all.
Maybe. Corey Pride thanking me. Free cock.
Where's the Blue Chew ads?
Yeah. Well, you've got them on Wednesday nights. You guys are doing them. You're holding them down.
Free cock it will be.
Yeah, there you go. It writes itself. Okay, so we're going to jump into this. Let's talk about Fastlane tonight. We opened with Mustafa Ali versus Riddle. Riddle picking up that win, retaining the championship. How you guys feeling about Riddle as U.S. champ? And how you feeling about Retribution right now?
I don't think there isn't a Retribution. I mean, after what we saw afterwards with...
Oh, yeah.
They all walked. Well, Mia Yim's character walked off. Slap, whatever, walked off. And then Mace and T-Bar double chokeslam. I mean, to me, this is WWE finally going, okay, we missed it on this one. T-Bar was kind of hinting it. He's grown his hair back. He's changed his social media. It's kind of moving more back to the Dominic Dijakovic, feast your eyes kind of look. Maybe he still remains a tag team with Mace, aka Dio Madden, but. This seems like Retribution's done. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Thank God. I feel bad for Ali because he was kind of like the one guy that you really wanted to see succeed out of this, and I don't know where that leaves him. Matt Riddle, I love Matt as a performer. Great that he retained it. We saw some goofiness with him later in a backstage promo we'll get to, but I don't know what's. I mean, I guess good that he has a title, but I don't know what else that means.
Yeah, I could see a group match with Matt Riddle. What makes me feel bad for Mustafa is it's so close to WrestleMania, and this is the type of angle that you would shoot at WrestleMania, is a faction breaking up and kind of resetting the mood the next night. So I think it's a little premature to do this. I think this leaves Retribution on the outside looking in, and not that I'm a fan of the group, but if you're going to break them up after all this time they've poured into it, I would have rather have seen it in a couple of weeks at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm most focused on, again, Dio Madden and Dijakovic. I mean, WWE has tried several times in the last few years to have that big, powerful tag team. They tried with the Viking Raiders. They worked in too much comedy, and then there's injury there. They tried it with AOP. Injury got in the way. I think AOP is gone, right? I think
I think they got released.
So we've seen a lot of missed power tag team. They have the group, the two Indian performers out of NXT that was there with Malcolm Bivens. The one was spoiling the main event of NXT via his Instagram story. So I mean, this could be the next attempt here with these two big, tall 6'7" guys.
Mia Yim has a really high ceiling on her. I think they could do a lot with her if they book her. Man, but I'm afraid she's gonna get beat up by Rhea. I hope if Mia draws a short stick and has that happen tomorrow night, that is the end of Reckoning, and then she comes back as Mia Yim.
Absolutely.
That would be the way to do it.
Take the Hannibal Lecter mask off and let her.
Yes.
Let her
Antoine Farrah, $5, shouting out his hood, Alfred, saying
Hey!
Jersey City, aka Chilltown. Also was born in the Bronx, New York.
What up?
Yes. Toxkazim. 399 does the Fiend swim in excrement.
The Fiend. I'll save it. I'll wait.
Yeah, we'll save it. It's women's tag team title match. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Does the storyline still make sense? Does this make sense at all? We knew Nia and Shayna would retain. And then after Banks calling Bianca rookie, smacking her, Bianca pointing at the sign. Did we need this to build up stakes on this match?
Alfred?
I could have done without it, to be honest. If this is a match between the EST and the woman who says she's the BEST, you don't want both of them losing back-to-back weeks leading up to WrestleMania. This is no longer about who the best is. It's just about, now they're making it personal, and I like incorporating personal grudges in feuds, but they've incorporated a personal grudge at the expense of the competitive nature. There's no longer any type of competition or a sense of we're going to see the best person. It's just turned into this really weird Jerry Springer type feud.
Yeah, I agree. This did no favors to either of these women who look. I think this was one of these matches that we saw early on. I mean, that was going to be on the Mania card. While much of this Mania card has been in pencil, when normally it's in pen by November.
Yeah,
we kind of saw this one early on, and this one was overly welcomed and myself included. Excited about by the WWE universe, but the way they've come down the stretch with this. Of both of them losing, and then even tonight, I know that Bianca's the baby face in this, but just to have her talk about as Antoine Fair was super chatting earlier, talk about excuse the wording here, talk about making somebody look like a bitch. I mean, they just punked Bianca. I mean, Bianca's just getting slapped and just pushed around. At some, and there was several stages of being pushed around by Sasha of you screwed up here, and then the slapping. At some point, Bianca needs to just give it back, and I'm sure we'll get that here in an upcoming SmackDown episode. But I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that. I thought this did no favor to these ladies at all. I'm not always a fan of the buddy cop. Let's make them tag team champions while they go in for the big singles match. We've seen some of this on NXT as well. But I almost would have rather that route just so we didn't have to have either one of those ladies getting pinned tonight.
It's very weird. I think these are two of the biggest stars. Two performers with the most charisma in all of wrestling right now, male, female, any roster. I'd put them probably in my top 5 in terms of charismatic star power, just exude it. Right. And here you've got them in this feud this match that's got nothing, and they're trying to manufacture a feud. And it's unfortunate. Bianca needs to win this, and it's got to have stakes. It's got to be big, but Sasha had better go full heel on this. I want her to be treating Bianca the way she did Bayley 6 years ago.
And this was back in February, Cardi B's jumping in on social media. And I started fantasy booking in my head. Oh my God, we're gonna have fans. This is WWE's reintroduction of fans. God, you could have Cardi B singing Bianca to the ring. Snoop can sing Sasha. I mean, you could make a major event out of this, and it's all just kind of right there in your hand. You have Snoop on speed dial, and Cardi B just jumped herself in on WWE social media, and that blew up. And this just feels like such a missed. And okay, you don't have to do that. That's my fantasy booking, but just book it right. Don't keep having these two keep losing in some fashion or another. It made no sense at all. Don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't get it, man. Also, not sure I get this. I mean, we had the Intercontinental Championship match, Apollo Crews versus Big E. So very intense promos Friday that they both cut. They really heated up this rivalry. But here we are, Apollo under his new character, and he lost here. Awkward pinfall, but he did retain.
Yeah, if they needed a test run, this is a match and a result that I didn't want heading into what I think is going to be a WrestleMania match between Big E and Apollo Crews. I mean, Apollo Crews kept saying, "This is not over!" So he's going to be back, and they're going to have some match. So why do you have to beat him here? Like, if this was going to be a test run, maybe if they're thinking that way, it might have been better for tonight to be like a preview show, or maybe you get a couple of angles run, because they had a really quick match, and it was like a dusty finish. And now Apollo's probably going to say that Big E's shoulders were on the floor, but this I think did damage to what I think has been a good feud. And the fact that Apollo lost really slows it down.
And he beat him up after, so he still looks strong.
He got his heat back, and that's good.
Yeah, the finishing sequence, I'm not sure. I still don't know. Was that the sequence? Was that how it was supposed to go? I don't know. But prior to that, I was really, I'm really into the Apollo Crews embracing, he was Uhaa Nation. That was his name prior to WWE. Him going back to embracing his roots, and he's doing the accent thing or what have you. But I'm okay with it. Like this, to me, I'm like, God, this just feel like we should have done this 4 years ago, rather than just sticking in with Apollo Crews and then Crews and just him just being just very generic. So I'm good for that. Big E, I love the fact that I see him turn it into that fifth gear, and he's usually the very happy, fun-loving Big E, but the trash talking he was doing and the repeated, crossbody slams, and you asked for this ass whooping, and this is all about respect. I was in on this. This was the highlight of the first hour of the show for me. And then, the finish was like, what was that? That just, and I couldn't even rewind it because I couldn't rewind on Peacock, and they didn't show a replay, so I still don't know what happened. But then, gets the heat back after the match. Apollo does. It's not over. That's fine. That's not over. I'm just so happy both of these guys are in. Big E's got a world title picture in 2021. Is barring injury, it seems inevitable.
And Big E's trash talking was phenomenal in this match. I loved it.
It's really good. I hope they come up with something really effective and special after this. Hey, let's take a moment. Thank the sponsor of this episode. You know all about Stereo. You know about the after show, as it were. We took this week off. Matt Morgan and I are going to be back this upcoming week. And if you want to check it out, if you want to ask your questions, if you want to hear more about my road trip, you want to hear more stories, if you want to hear what I've got going on and where I'm moving, I will just say this. If there's any contractors or people that do kitchens or bathrooms or paint or floors in the greater Las Vegas metropolitan area, please reach out to me because I have some questions, and I will talk more on Stereo about this move and what we're looking at with this uprooting. This is a chance for Matt Morgan and I to do an after show where we talk more about our lives, what Matt is doing with his local community, what we're doing both with mental health, physical health, taking your questions, talking about diet plans, getting into crazy stories we never even touch on this podcast, and of course, a full 360-degree look into our day-to-day lives. The after party, as it were, on Stereo. Now, Stereo is the live social conversation app where you can be a host, be a part of someone else's conversation, or simply listen. They've got thousands of live social conversations. Lots of comedians are on there. Lots of podcasts are on there. And we've been doing the exclusive after show, as it were, every week on Stereo. Matt Morgan and myself, NYC Demon Diva, Issa, has also been doing a show on Stereo each week. And what's great is that you can listen to it live. You can listen to it later on demand. You can ask your audio questions. We've heard so many of your voices. In fact, that's how Issa became a co-host of Friday Night. She asked a question. We loved her personality. We had her as a guest, and then was like, this is fantastic. Let's add her to the panel. So we want you to participate on this. Download the Stereo app. It's available on iOS or Android. And the first thing I want you to do on there is follow me, Glenn Rubenstein. Also follow Matt Morgan and NYC Demon Diva. You'll get notified when we go live, and you'll find out when we're going to be back this week for the after show, as it were. Justin, Alfred, you guys got to get on stereo. We got to start doing this. We got to start having you on. Doing these chats. They're so much fun. So much fun. So thank you again to Stereo for sponsoring the Wrestling Inc. podcast. And we look forward to resuming the after show, as it were, this week. I'd much rather talk about my move and what I'm dealing with than Braun Strowman versus Elias. Shane McMahon injured himself today. What's up with that, Justin?
Well, so there's a lot of questions surrounding that. They initially had advertised that Braun was going to take on Shane for Fastlane, which had scratched a lot of our heads because, that seemed like this was just, Shane McMahon comes around for a Grudge Mania match, every year. I was like, Fastlane, really? And then they just took it off. And then they revisit, I guess, kind of trying to acknowledge that they had scheduled the match, and so they pulled this whole Shane injury thing. So I don't know what it is. I just assume that it's as simple as they promoted for Fastlane premature, and it's actually just a match they want to have at Mania, and Shane's gonna jump off the pirate ship. That's what I just figured this is. I guess we'll see. That's what I assume, and this is just a way to kind of like if you did happen to want to tune into the show, that's a pretty big. That's one of your featured things. If you're saying Shane versus Braun, I guess they figured as a make good, we need to acknowledge it, and somehow we need to at least put Braun out there. We need to have Braun do something. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. This match tonight, though, I mean, Elias with Jackson Riker versus Braun Strowman. This feels like a replay of things we've seen so many times before, and not the Symphony of Destruction match was the peak of Elias and Braun.
Right. Yeah, and that was a very underrated match, I think. I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah, this just felt uninspired. Like, why did this need to be on the card? If Shane was really hurt, why didn't they fake that Braun beat him up or jumped him or?
Sure.
Yeah, it did. I mean, like I said, maybe this is just a weird make good attempt, but even I always like seeing Shane perform, and it's always fun. And I'm a Braun fan, and again, they'll probably do some crazy stupid stunt at Mania, but even this whole feud, the stupid, the slime, it's just, come on.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, this might have been the best thing that could happen for this feud, because it wasn't a cartoon. It was Braun Strowman looking like a monster instead of looking like an idiot like he's looked the past few weeks. At least we saw him get a clean win. I mean, ever since he's come back, not even for the Shane feud, just for the Elimination Chamber, when he said he wanted to be in the Chamber and he couldn't get through his mind that he wasn't a former WWE champion. So they've just been doing a lot of bad things with Braun that involve non-wrestling segments. So just see him like beat somebody up and get a win was the best thing that could have happened for this character.
Yeah. I don't know. This was a fast-moving pay-per-view tonight. Didn't necessarily need to happen. Yeah. Jody Shauna Jenkins, Justin agreed with your tweet, Apollo Crews, so much upside with him, and it should have been done much earlier. Oh, this should have been done much earlier. Also, what do you see long-term for The Fiend?
Well, we'll get to The Fiend here in a second, but I guess just to tease my answer, Jody Shauna Jenkins, I think that they are going to have to, again, pull some more hocus pocus of. I mean, this might be. I don't think what we saw tonight, the look of the Fiend, is his next evolution. I don't think this is here to stay for the next year. I think this is obviously a response to what was done to him back in December, which actually kudos to them. They actually were able to keep him off TV for that long of a time period, which is an eternity in this day and age. But I think he'll step into the magic well. Alexa will blow some potion on him. Something will happen that he gets reborn and finds his old look, or at least maybe it's an advanced of a look, but he won't be in this burnt marshmallow Ghostbusters 1. When Rick Moranis and Sigourney Weaver stop being burnt dogs again, they're all covered, and this will not be the look long term is my point, but we'll get more into it here shortly.
Yeah, and there is a precedent for that. They had Kane, whose story was that he was burnt to a crisp, and when he took his mask off, you saw the burn marks, but within weeks he was just like a regular guy with no mask on. Yeah,
and shout out to Tom Savini and the Pittsburgh crew here. They're the ones that originally filmed the Firefly Funhouse in a set studio here in Pittsburgh first before the WWE took it on the road, and then they're the ones who designed the Fiend mask and a lot of the visuals the Fiend has used, and they were again responsible for the burnt to the crisp Fiend that we saw tonight.
Oh, well, there you go. So After that, Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura, with Seth winning. What did you think of this? A lot of people had really high hopes for this match.
I thought it achieved them. I thought this is where, from a wrestling standpoint, this pay-per-view peaked. I don't think the wrestling was any better than this match. They went back and forth. Shinsuke seems like he's in the best shape of his career. I mean, this looked like 2013 Shinsuke Nakamura, and him and Seth Rollins worked a back and forth match. Seth introduced some new moves that I liked, like a new insecurity thing that he's doing. And I just like this match as a wrestling match, you know?
Yeah, I agree. There was no stakes to this, so it was kind of empty in that regard. But yeah, this was where the show turned. This is where it picked up. I said hour one, kind of, Alfred just said it. There was a spot where there was a sliding German from one of them.
Yeah,
and there was another spot where Seth like leapfrogged over Shinsuke and hit the Insaguri from behind. I mean,
yeah.
So it was a really good wrestling match. Again, not a lot of stakes. I think this is what's supposed to happen. I get very Seth Rollins is the heel to me. I get very annoyed by him. Not the go away X-Pac, which I don't really believe in, but I see him. I'm like, man, I just want this guy to get his ass kicked. But at all things told, he's a great bell-to-bell performer. So good to see him back. Him and Shinsuke, fun combination here.
Did you ever compile a list, Justin, of all the wrestling things you believe in? I don't believe in X-Pac. I believe NXT is the main roster. You've got like a good list of a dozen LaBarisms at this point.
Yeah, I could probably make a book at this point.
This could be a podcast on stereo.
It could be. I could create a manual of, like I said earlier, doesn't always have to be predictable is okay as long as it's logical. Another one. Why do they reset the broadcast table back up? If you break the broadcaster's table, make them suck it out, sit there in chairs, with the monitors on the floor. Don't reset the table. It just cheapens the spot. That happened later in the night here. I have a lot of things that I have beliefs. I do. It's wrong.
Nothing wrong with that. And it's refreshing to hear. I feel like people are just like they got an earful of me and Matt Morgan's beliefs. I feel like crescendo, as it were. It's just probably repeated a little bit.
I think right now, I think it's no longer the big four. I think it's the big five pay-per-views. Money in the Bank is the number 5.
Oh, for sure.
I have a lot. I mean, if I was going to be a politician in the pro wrestling world, I have a clear stance on issues. I don't know what side. I don't know if I'm left or right, or if I'm heel or face, or if I'm main event or jobbing. But I have clear issues.
You're a bipartisan wrestling fan, Justin.
Yeah, right. I'm going to bring both sides of the aisle together.
My biggest edict is I cannot solve the world's problems. I wish I could, but if I'm ever put in charge, I'm going to outlaw the stock music they use for real estate listings that go up on YouTube, because it's the same song for every video slideshow. That's my hell I've been in.
That's your hill to die on, huh?
Yeah. I'm going to put my foot down. The stock music is just beat. We need something new.
Alfred, give me some tax law. What hill are you dying on?
I don't know when it comes to tax law. We'll die on a hill about the Fiend and Bray. I feel like this is a hill I'm going to have to die on when we get into the Fiend versus or Alexa Bliss versus Randy Orton. I'll die on that hill.
Yeah, and there's a lot to talk about. There was kind of why I'm jumping through some of this other stuff, because it's like, look, Rollins. Okay, like where does Rollins go for Mania? Cesaro?
Yes, almost for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so him winning over Shinsuke makes sense tonight. This match, no holds barred, Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre with no stakes whatsoever. A long knockdown, drag out, beat 'em up match. Really good. Drew McIntyre won. They really tried to tell this story. I like the Braveheart face paint. Enjoyed a lot of the presentation of this, but why did this match happen? Alfred, your thoughts?
This match should have happened. I don't think any of those Raw matches should have happened. They should have always built to this. And the fact that you saw Drew McIntyre come out and he's wearing his war paint, like they really did a good job building to this match as being a big deal. My question is, like somebody brought up earlier, this should have had a stipulation that whoever wins this match gets to face Lashley. The announcement a couple weeks ago on Raw shouldn't have just been that, oh yeah, by the way, Drew McIntyre is facing Lashley. They should have said the winner of this match between Drew and Sheamus is going to face Lashley. But I absolutely love this match. It's just that you can only get emotionally involved so much if you're almost certain that, Sheamus is not going to win this match, and it's just being done to set up Drew for Lashley. But again, they've wrestled 3 of these really physical matches, and they've all been different, and they've all really satisfied me. I just didn't see the need for this.
Do you think, and not to be a complete cynic about this, but that's because, do you think that with Mania and the announcement there's going to be fans, they had to dangle Drew because if people thought, well, maybe it'll be Sheamus versus Bobby, I don't think people are necessarily buying tickets. That's not influencing someone's decision.
Maybe, but my counter to that, Glenn, would be they're not sold out, but they moved a lot of tickets this past Friday with the option to be able to buy individual night or buy both nights. And they haven't even told us one single damn match it's going to be on the night. You have no idea. If you buy only night 2, you don't know what's on night 2. If you buy only night, so I don't know if I buy that. Alfred's right. They should have never had these other past Raw matches. Look, they had a video package that was one of the best video packages I've seen in a while before this match, where they had both Sheamus and Drew who did specific voiceovers for this package. This was not just pulling soundbite clips from their promos on Raw. They both followed a script of 20 years ago. 20 years ago, they showed all the archive footage of them from Scotland and Ireland and growing up. And like, so the footage and then the intensity of this match, like, yeah, this was one of the most well-built matches. That's not even at WrestleMania. Yeah, and to Alfred's point, they kept wording this as like, once Drew did win, they kept wording it as, now Drew's got, business shoved aside. He can focus on Mania. No, it should have been. He doesn't get to Mania unless he wins this match. It was hard-hitting. I've said this before. I tweeted something like this. Whenever you have two talents who are such good friends, who have worked with each other, and who have so much trust with each other, you're going to get an intense one because there is no concern about being too stiff. There's such trust with each other. You got that tonight. These two guys borderline were in a shoot fight. Still protecting each other where you have to protect, but they were borderline in a shoot fight because they won't have it any other way. They don't want to embarrass the other one by going too soft. So this was very fun to watch. But yes, at the end of the day, it was like, well, why am I watching this?
Yeah. Which is weird because if I was in like a match with Matt Morgan and we're friends, I would be like, just cradle me when you just support me, extra support when you slam me down. Just really watch my neck.
Brother me softly.
Yes. Stellar Justin Lopez, $4.99. I wish I could have been invested in the match more. Seemed great, but it was hard for me when we knew Drew was winning and there were no stakes.
That came to my mind during that video package. It was such a great package. They had so much history to work off. I'm just like, well, then why the hell would they not just like build this for a stipulation? Like, they really built this up. Everything about this seemed like a WrestleMania caliber feud, except the fact that they already had Drew McIntyre's opponent announced for the future.
Yeah, what the hell does Sheamus do at WrestleMania?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, Andre Battle Royal.
Yeah.
That's what this is going to be.
Which is interesting because we're in a couple months ago. They're really high on him. He might get another world title run. He's going to be a top star on Raw. That's why they're moving him over. I mean, I don't know. It's funny. You have to wonder how much the talent believes it too, right?
Right. When
they get these moves and this hype and stuff like that. Matthew Pierce, $4.99. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to. Gato? He's saying
New Japan?
Yeah, New Japan. That's right. That happened last night. Saw his interest on TikTok and it was awesome.
Didn't see it.
I haven't seen that. You must be talking about the New Japan Cup pay-per-view. I have yet to see that too, but I will get into that sometime this weekend.
Oh, cool. Jared Wilson, that Old Spice segment with R-Truth was gold. So I was on a call with my realtor during that, but tell everyone what happened during that segment.
It was the Old Spice Joe Average trying to sell Old Spice, and we see that R-Truth is disguised behind the big display of Old Spice, and then Tozawa shows up with the ref, and then Truth ends up coming into it. Basically, the Joe Average ends up winning the 24/7 title for a minute, and then Truth wins it back. Tozawa's mad that Joe Average took his opportunity, and R-Truth stole some free Old Spice and ran off.
We just recapped an Old Spice commercial. Next up, AT&T commercials of women calling their elderly fathers from the 1990s. So Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss. Let's talk about this. Good build up for this. They've really been pushing the smoke and mirrors, as it were, in the build up to this. We saw a recap of the highlights, the fire, the black stuff, the dark arts, if you will. Then we went to the match, and she was toying with him a lot, but this was really just building up to where we saw the burnt hand come out from beneath the ring, the Fiend with his new charred look, and Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, is back. Alexa Bliss covered the pin and the win. Alfred, your thoughts on this first?
Okay, so this is a hill that I am willing to die on in terms of what I believe in wrestling. I believe very much in managing our expectations. Like, I understand this has been a very polarizing feud. I've come on this podcast week in and week out. As soon as this feud got Supernatural, wasn't a fan of it. Supernatural stuff, maybe not my cup of tea. But once I realized that that's the direction they were going, I am now judging this feud strictly as a Supernatural feud. I'm treating it like it's a Rocky Horror Picture Show. And as a corny Supernatural feud, I had no problem with this. I thought this was exactly what I really thought was going to happen. Could have done without Alexa Bliss beating Randy Orton and the referee not doing anything about all this outside interference, because this is not a stipulation match from what we were sold. But I had no problem with this. I thought if this is the direction they're going, they're clearly doing something supernatural. I'm just going to enjoy it, because if I really try to invest too much into this and look between the holes, you're going to find all kinds of logic gaps, but they're just trying to do some hocus pocus. Why not? You know, I'm along for the ride. Let's all go to hell together.
Well, when you say it that way, it sounds really, really
so inviting. Yeah, look, this might be unpopular, and I don't, maybe to the audience that's listening to us right now, watching, I'm good with this. I'm not going to say that every time I'm going to want Hocus Pocus over a 5-star classic, but I probably appreciate more the story and the smoke and mirrors over what is might perceive to be a 5-star classic when it really isn't, but it's just a whole lot of whatever. I'm okay with this. I'm fine. My mind is, over the years, we have been in awe, and we didn't complain, at least not the mass majority. We didn't complain when The Undertaker did any of the things that he ever did. Ascended to heaven, was buried alive, what have you. Kane set on fire, setting other people on fire. We saw a lot of magic in the past. For a lot of us, is some of the greatest, clips that we can remember from that particular era. And so WWE is in a situation where they have this amazing character in The Fiend, and who Bray Wyatt has incredible control over. I can tell you this, folks. He's not just being given a script and told, you're doing this. He has a ton of creative control in, yes, this is where we're going. No, we're not doing this. Hence why he was able to stay off of TV since December. That is an eternity in today's age of WWE with the amount of program they have. So when they're on a closed set with a character like him, and when you can pre-tape things and you can do all the tricks they have, I don't blame them. He's not going to be burned and fried forever. He's going to have to eventually come out of this, but I'm fine with this. Again, I appreciate 5-star matches, but I also appreciate just some entertainment. I appreciate the smoke and mirrors. So I was fine with this. And by the way, again, this is what I talked about at the start of this. This is inevitable. We knew the only way out of Alexa Bliss for Randy Orton wasn't going to RKO Alexa Bliss, and Alexa Bliss wasn't going to hit her. Whatever what's her face, Little Miss Bliss, or whatever. The inevitable Twisted Bliss. Thank you. The inevitable was the Fiend has to resurface. We're 3 weeks before Mania, and we need out of this. So that's how they did it. Scaffolding, the lights are falling, fire shooting up everywhere. Orton's got a chronic COVID throw up stuff. This is the inevitable. Just sit back and watch. Raj is bitching about it. I don't know why he's bitching about it. This is fun.
But let's talk about Bray's new burnt look. I first thought of me instantly of like Toxic Avenger or Swamp Thing. It looked kind of like one of the hokier Friday the 13th movies. When Jason, I want to say part 8, at the start of the movie, when Jason comes out and he's got all the crud on him, or at the end after he's been set on fire, it looked like that. I mean, I'm not dissing the level of special effects, but special effects is so much about lighting and presentation, right? And if you don't have it lit properly, or it's just off a little bit, something that can look epic and creepy can look silly and, dollar store the next moment if it's just not lit and shot correctly. And I just thought this didn't look as great as The Fiend did when we first saw him,
It was a tad bit deflating. I will say it was on the hokey side to see the reveal, but I didn't think it was so much so where it's like, this is the takeaway. Like, a lot of people are going to show the screenshots of what he looked like. He's burned to a crisp. They're following the storyline protocol. I mean, who am I to, critique the costume guy? It looks like they did put a lot of work in it, but it did seem a little overproduced.
To be fair, we've seen guys get burnt or have severe things done to them, and within 2 weeks they're back on TV looking as regular and normal as possible. So at least, again, since December, at least they are selling what has kept him away from TV for this long.
Yeah. I mean, I think
I'm the public defender that was assigned to the storyline. I am the public defender.
I'm excited he's back. I like this storyline. I just think that, you know, the big reveal was that, and it's the same way too. Like, do you ever watch a horror movie and you're like, oh, the atmosphere is so good and the story is so good, and then they show the killer or the monster, like you finally see it and you're like, oh.
That was Signs for me. Signs was leading up until the reveal of the aliens. It was one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, the first 90 minutes of Signs is great, and then you see the aliens and you're just like, oh. And it completely ruined the movie for me. Like, I think it's a bad movie because of the reveal of the aliens.
I thought Insidious was one of the scariest things I'd ever seen. Then they showed Darth Maul, and I was like, eh.
Yeah.
I agree. The secret with Signs was not seeing and not knowing.
That's what made it so scary.
Right. Once you saw it, and you're like, oh, water does the trick.
Yeah.
You know?
Same thing in Jaws. I mean, Jaws, they knew in the first one not to show the shark too much. And that's what the sequel suffered from that, you know? Yeah. Although, how menacing did the shark look in Jaws 2 after the shark got burnt? Yeah.
Charred to a crisp. Looked delicious. Yeah.
I mean, but I will say this. As public defender, though, I will have to counter myself. Where do they go from here? I mean, because you can't have, you know, Charge Fiend versus Orton in just a regular match. I mean, we already saw, it was in Orlando, we saw Bray and Orton in a match, and they had the crazy LED shit on the ring. I mean, I assume the only answer for Mania is another cinematic, like Funhouse kind of match. They have to just go deep into the psychedelic because there's nothing you can do in front of the live crowd that's going to be able to satisfy.
So here's a question. What happens to the Bray Wyatt character, the human version? Is he going to be charred too, or is he just going to be normal Bray Wyatt?
No, he can't be charred because that. I think it's that's actually a really good question. I think it's very important that he's not charred. It's very important if we see him next, which maybe that's what we do. He's back in sweater vest and normal because he's separate. He's not him,
right?
You know, I think
he's all bandaged up. He's recovering. He's healing.
I don't think so because he's a different person. He always refers to the Fiend as him. He's a different person.
But then we could do the swerve where he's all bandaged up, and then the Fiend appears. You think it's Bray, and the bandages. They could do a little switcheroo.
Orton goes into the Firefly Funhouse to try to conquer this.
Yeah.
And John Cena's been trapped in the Firefly Funhouse. We have not seen him since last year Mania. Wow. John Cena's in the house, and John Cena helps him get out of the house.
I can see that. The two Marines working together.
Cena's in Vancouver filming this movie, right? He can't get to Mania. Certainly the film crew can at lunch film something for him to.
Randy Orton, Alfred got dismissed from the Marine
He did,
series.
yes, that is right.
It was Ted DiBiase Jr.
It's fun while it lasted.
I hate that I know that. I hate that I just corrected you on Marine movie trivia. Why do I know this?
Because you're the WWE Studios biographer. You revealed that years ago to us.
If I had time, I would do a podcast, and then we would just watch WWE Studios films. Just, dive into them full on.
That could be fun.
Danny Cochran 499 just listened to the last podcast where Alfred talked about his date. Bobby the Brain instantly came to mind when he said he's the man. I need to know the story.
So Glenn, you would love this. Let me set you up, Alfred. So sure. we've had the wonderful people at Manscaped as our sponsor on these Wednesday night podcasts. And a couple weeks ago when we were promoting Manscaped and the wonderful products, Alfred was saying how he had a date upcoming the upcoming weekend. And, Manscaped was going to be, obviously he's going to have to, put it to use. And we said, and then the fans spoke, they wanted follow-up. They wanted follow in social, even before we hit record last Wednesday, the social media was buzzing of they wanted follow-up on his date. So I had to set him up, and he was smart not to kiss and tell all, but he did at least just tell us that the Manscaped came in handy. He wouldn't give us much more than that, but the wrestling podcast audience is on the hook for Alfred's dating world right now.
Yeah, guys, I don't want to turn this into OnlyFans, but I'm trying to say what I can in saying that Manscaped came through. I was more aerodynamic. I did receive compliments on the area. And listen, I had a great manscaping session. And I'd like to thank our sponsors. Thank you, Manscaped. I have their cologne right here. Even a different scent. Different scent, too.
Aerodynamic.
I put that on. She goes, "What's that smell?" And he goes, "That's the scent of inevitability, baby."
That is a scent. I Manscaped. I took Blue Chew. There's a scent of inevitability coming here.
Yeah, putting it down. Oh man. Yeah, if you want to get that Manscaped experience, use our code INC, save some money, get free shipping. We thank Manscaped for being a longtime sponsor of the Wrestling Inc. podcast.
Thank you, guys.
Same with Blue Chew, $5. Just pay $5 shipping and handling for a free sample of Blue Chew. Trying to get all the plugs in. We got a great audience tonight. Wrestling's I don't know. We haven't seen a number for a live show since the Rumble. And Fastlane is normally not a hot pay-per-view, but I think this is where Peacock, it was a little smart for them to put it out there and get people excited about this, you know?
This is also the first time ever this trio. I think this is a winning combination.
Oh, it's true. Jackson Callens, $4.99 saying, how's the Fiend or Bray back out of this now if it doesn't work out? I mean, I don't know, shrug.
That's a good question. I mean, we were talking, I don't know if it was with you, Justin, but we were talking about the Bray Wyatt character. No, Jack Farmer and Raj. But they were talking about how this character tends to start hot and then just kind of burn out. This is what happened with the Wyatt family, where I was in the building when they debuted in LA, and it was the hottest thing on the show outside of Brock Lesnar on SummerSlam. And then that character burned out, and we're kind of seeing the same cycle play out here.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I've been on the fact that it was it was like what, 2 years ago this June that the whole Firefly Penthouse stuff even started, or two years ago in May. I feel like 2 years in May. I mean, I feel like they've gotten a lot out. I feel like they've managed to pace. I mean, never mind this is where he didn't have control. Never mind the getting beat by Goldberg stuff. Was it Goldberg? Yeah. There was a Hell in a Cell with Seth where they stopped the match.
Sure.
And then I think it was him losing to Goldberg. I mean, that stuff has been, that was Vince pulling the trump card of I need Goldberg and Mania. But otherwise, the stuff he's had control over, I think it's been a pretty good story evolution of the characters and the Jekyll and Hyde. So I still give it hope.
And I'm a fan of Bray Wyatt the person, just in terms of his mind creatively. So as many chances as he needs, if they do go another direction, I'm always going to be here for it because I just am a big fan of his mind.
Bear Hudson, $5 saying, I love the new Fiend look, gives him a scarier, darker look, and it makes opponents afraid to face him. If they build him properly, this can work. But that's the thing about the darkness. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't light him minimally. He should be, you don't want to put too much light on it because then you start to see the problems. It's like mood lighting is everything on this. Terry Allen Jr., 501, song Reality Check Justin, downloaded from Amazon. Did the artist create it or both?
Yeah, this is he's referring to, there's a song called Reality Check that was for my Wrestling Reality podcast, which has kind of been basically on a year's hiatus, but it's by an awesome artist named Montezi. It is all him. I had no input in it. It was one of those ones where he sent it to me and I loved it. Montezi is a co-host on the podcast on the WWE Network that Isaiah Swerve Scott does.
Oh.
Montezi also has done theme music. He does Big Swole's music. Who else?
Nice.
There's several other talents in AEW because they can have a little bit more free range. But he's a super talented guy. Big shout out to him. But yeah, he was just a great fan. We got connected via mutual friends. Have gotten to hang out over the years. Haven't seen him obviously in the last year. Miss him. But that's all him. All him. Awesome. So please, download it. Any purchase, it all goes to him. Well deserved. Check it out.
Very cool. Bet Chaffin, $5, asking the real questions. What's your favorite movie, soundtrack, or song? I tend to listen to Cruel Summer from The Karate Kid by Bananarama.
Soundtrack. I mean, I love the Goodfellas soundtrack. I love the Armageddon soundtrack.
Footloose was pretty dope.
Footloose? The 8 Mile soundtrack.
Well, I mean...
8 Mile soundtrack was dope. I love that.
Yeah. But you know what I have? I have MP3s that somebody recorded from the DVD of the end freestyle rap battles. Like, I'll listen to that.
Oh yeah, multiple
times a week. That's not on the soundtrack, unfortunately. Wish it were.
That's where I go to YouTube for that. Yes. How about Anthony Mackie, who played? There was a big feature in him in People Magazine this month. And how about he had just finished Juilliard, walked right onto 8 Mile and played Papa Doc. Mm-hmm. And then his career just exploded. Obviously, he's in the Avengers stuff. I mean, it's his. I think he played Tupac, and I think it was the big.
Yeah, he played.
Tupac, Notorious. Tupac. Anthony, I was just, my wife and I were talking, reading that article the other day about Anthony Mackie, and we pulled up the Papa Doc clip. That's why I bring it up.
Did you watch the Falcon and the Winter Soldier yet?
I haven't seen it. I haven't even heard anything about it. Is it good?
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, it feels like a Marvel movie. It's got layers to it. It's a different type show than you think. They started off with a very movie type action sequences, but the storytelling they're doing on there, it feels like an AMC prestige drama. You know, it feels like you're watching like Rubicon or Counterpart or one of those shows. I'm really into it. I thought WandaVision was fantastic and ended really well. And this is just, I mean, this is like they're putting out a series that's finally the same quality as the movies. No disrespect to the Netflix shows or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but this is like a whole other level, you know?
Nice. Love that.
Yeah, first episode's online. And there was a great surprise that was not spoiled before. So, yeah, I recommend checking it out. But it was cool. So, Matthew Pierce, $4.99, saying Bray's characters are fizzled because they kept beating him. Well, he's definitely winning over Randy.
You'd think. You'd hope.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Chris Pantaleo, $1.99, saying Manscaped should make a buzzer called the Razor Remo. That's good. I like that. Let's see what else we got here. So let's talk about so much in the chat. I love our chat room. Like, I have to not get distracted by the chat room because they're talking about soundtracks and they're talking about the deleted 8 Mile battle rap scenes.
Yeah. And the fun story behind that is they told Eminem not to say anything because his voice was kind of failing on him. They wanted that to be pantomiming for a montage. And then he just ended up like, he was so competitive. He just ended up just roasting all those guys. It's very fun.
Are the deleted scenes on YouTube?
Oh,
They
yeah.
are.
I watch them a lot too, just like Glenn.
Yeah. And this is where I feel like more of a millennial, where, I mean, I actually like the ending of 8 Mile gets me more pumped than the ending of any Rocky film.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
so
Rocky
good.
was great though. I don't, but it was a good ending.
Yeah, ending of 8 Mile is one of the greatest endings in all movie history. So let's see. Oh, then we come to the main event, the Universal title match, Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns with Edge as the guest enforcer. Will Jey Uso interfere? Undoubtedly. Alfred, do you first. What'd you think of this epic match that we saw tonight?
And that's how I would describe it. I thought it was epic. I thought it was slow to get going, but this is a formula for Roman Reigns that I've kind of gotten used to. Is he needs a little time to tell a story. You're going to get a lot of Roman Reigns talking trash, and then they build it. And by the time this match got going, there was a lot of suspense. I was not 100,000% sure that Roman Reigns was going to retain, as sure as I was when it came into it. So I actually liked it. I like the storytelling with Daniel Bryan and Edge continuing to have strife. And, not to pat myself on the back at all. This is to prove a point. Like on Friday, this is the exact scenario that I picked out. Is, they keep emphasizing Roman Reigns is going to tap out, so he's probably going to tap out, and Edge isn't going to see it, and it's going to build more friction. And the fact that I'm right isn't that I'm a genius or anything like that, which I am, but that's not why. It's because
an aerodynamic genius.
A very aerodynamic genius, exactly. Thank you, Manscaped. But it's because they're telling a story that I'm invested in, that if you can see the end, and it, like Justin said earlier tonight, if it's predictable, then that means that maybe they're telling an effective story that is logical. And I thought it was a very logical finish the way they did this.
Yeah, I said it a couple Fridays ago. Cheap plug. Every Friday morning, I'm on Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM with Mark Henry and Dave LaGreca, and I said to them several Fridays ago, I said, this build to this Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. It's not the first time ever that we've seen him. It's not the first. But given where Daniel's at in his career, having come back from being told he was going to be done wrestling, given where Roman's at as a heel with the Paul Heyman presentation, this felt Mania worthy itself, which again just made Fastlane that much more just head scratching of like, great match. Obviously the longest match of the night. It was a great story. And like Alfred said, I don't think I ever got to the point to where I really felt that Reigns wasn't going to leave the night as champion. I couldn't buy into, but they did get me. It was like every time Bryan would counter in reverse, I'm like, well, how are they going to get out of this one? They did have me at that point. I was like, how is it going to happen? Great match. As I said earlier at the top of the show, or early on in the show, the inevitable. It's triple threat. Edge has just screwed it himself. He's going to make it this harder on himself. Blinded by rage, using the chair on Bryan. So I'm here for it, and that I will say, come Mania, and I'm sure some combination of the three of us or all three of us will be talking post-Mania night 1 or night 2. I don't know what the outcome is at Mania, because I could see the case for Reigns retaining. Bryan, you can never count Bryan out. I was in New Orleans for Mania 30. You can never count Bryan out. And then, of course, you think, okay, Edge, the big story is we give him one last hurrah. But I don't think any of the three are clear-cut,
Hmm.
absolute obvious choices.
Yeah, and I really do want to. I'm sorry. I want to just counter really quickly the point made earlier about how Roman Reigns looked. I thought he looked stronger in the fact that, I mean, Daniel Bryan, the story was Roman Reigns has not been on the mat for a long time with a lot of elite grapplers. And he was on the mat a lot for Daniel Bryan, and he took that yes lock, and he was in the yes lock for a very long time. And the announcers did a good job building up, like, how much longer can he take this? His whole shoulder is going to give out. And Roman Reigns to hang in for as long as he did on that yes lock and counter it, and it took a long time for it to actually work on. I thought that made him look stronger.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, when he was tapping out and the ref wasn't seeing it, I mean, it was just kind of textbook. Oh, Daniel Bryan still looks strong. So then eventually, after Daniel Bryan credibly could have had a win, Edge takes a chair to both Daniel Bryan and to Roman, and then walks off. I mean, so Roman wins, and yeah, I think this sets it up for a triple threat. To your point, Justin, I could almost see them waiting until the show because they have no clue. Think about this. We have no clue how Roman Reigns, his reaction is going to be in front of a live audience.
Well, if anything, doing this triple threat with both Bryan and Edge kind of ensures that Roman will probably can keep booed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we really haven't seen this heel Roman in front of, or we haven't. Not really, we haven't. He came back in August. We haven't seen him in front of fans. But I think when you put Edge in that story of the comeback, and then of course Daniel Bryan, the babyface he is, this kind of almost secures that like Roman will be booed, and then you toss Paul Heyman in there who can agitate anybody. I think it's kind of protects Roman's heel persona.
So it was good. Dean Regan TV saying Bryan going to Mania with about 2 wins in a year. He has to go on a winning hot streak if they're going to put him in Mania.
Well, he's only got what? 2 or 3 Raws, or 2 or 3 SmackDowns. It's not like there's not a lot of time to do anything here. So
I mean, I could see them do, especially if the plan is for Edge to win at Mania. I could see them do night 1 Bryan versus Edge, and Bryan beats Edge, and then maybe Edge comes back and gets his win.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that has been floated out in terms of them doing a night 1. Daniel Bryan has to fight his way into WrestleMania, and with so little time left until WrestleMania, I think that might be what they do.
Do you think they're going to bring back a longer card with the live audience, or they're going to say that no, these shorter cards have been working?
I think with 2 nights, I think pre-show included, because they always work a few things into a pre-show, I think you're looking at 4 hours total.
I'm saying, Vince doesn't care about concession, his percentage of concession sales at Mania this year. Not like, I mean, that's part of the reason why normally their shows are so long. It sells more merch. They get more from the venue. Like, there's reasons why these shows are.
Yeah, I think a 2 hour. I think you'll get a 2 hour pre-show with matches being in an hour of, and like the second hour of it, and then I think the actual main card will be 3 hours.
Yeah, and I think they don't care about the gate. Although, it's funny, so we mentioned Vegas earlier. Apparently people are griping out because in Vegas all the shows are running at 50% capacity, so they just doubled all the prices. So that way they're getting
there you go.
Gate. Yeah, I know. And everyone's complaining, like, why are show tickets so expensive? Well, you can only have half as many people. But Mania seems like, I mean, if you look at it now, you just saw the thing in Miami, like the mayor saying, like, there's too many people in the state of crisis. You're seeing places open back up. Like Mania, this is going to be the largest scale event we've had since people are going out again.
Well, and the other thing to watch too is, the Thunderdome is in Tropicana Field where the Tampa Bay Rays play, and Tampa Bay Rays' first home game is Friday, April 9th. Now, SmackDown is not going to be live that night. It appears that SmackDown on April 9th, so the go-home SmackDown, is going to be taped the week prior.
Oh, wow.
So as far as I can tell, the last thing that'll be taped, or not taped, the last thing that'll be shot live in the Thunderdome will be Raw on Monday, April 5th.
Wow.
So where do they go after that? Where is the Raw the night after Mania at? That we don't know. Because like the Thunderdome is there to disguise with no fans, but the Thunderdome is not something you can just set up in a couple hours. So like, where are they going? Or is the night after Mania going to have fans somewhere? Like that's the big question mark that I'm looking at that I haven't been able to get anybody to give me an answer to, is where the hell are they going the night after Mania?
It's crazy. Well, and you think about the timeline, and even if, WWE's now promoting vaccinations and just interesting to think about how quickly are things going to come back. Is it going to stick? We're a very weird moment where I'm very optimistic. I think a lot of people feel like the light at the end of the tunnel, the horizon is in sight. But yeah, it's interesting timing with Mania and where do they go afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of other venues in Florida, so they could presumably set, I guess, the Thunderdome up there. But we'll see.
I could almost see them showing not a recap, but I could almost see them like if Mania is really hot, I could see them airing like a 3-hour highlight package with some backstage stuff, or maybe they tape some extra content. I don't know.
I mean, you're coming off of whatever big angles you just shot for Mania. True. I mean, and the other thing too is like you're going to have 25,000 fans each night at Mania, which is going to, for all of us, because it's going to sound bonkers. We're going to appreciate it more than ever because we've been a year without it. And then you're going to go back to pipe sound and Thunderdome screens.
Especially for the Raw after Mania, which is always such a hot show, and that's going to be very jarring.
Unless they do away with the Thunderdome and wherever they end up, if it's another arena in Florida, unless they say, unless they basically hand out free tickets essentially to everybody who's at Mania and says, hey, if you're here in Florida, come to Raw tomorrow. We're basically paying your way. We just want loud bodies, and we need 5,000 people in this arena. I mean, unless they do something like that, but that'd be hard pressed to go from 25,000 people at a stadium, which is going to just again be great for all of us, and then go back to pipe sound.
It's a weird time, man. It is a weird time, and you can't get too far ahead of yourselves with the planning with everything. Stellar Justin Lopez, $4.99. TB is the only wrestler these days I know has no chance of winning, but he still makes me believe maybe, just maybe, he's going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, when did he turn into Charlie Brown in the football, man? Like, they used to remember when Sami Zayn was in this spot for a long time. They were literally building him as the ultimate underdog who put in these great displays, and then every time he get an opportunity, we just go nowhere. Like Daniel Bryan, I think should be booked better than that. Bet Chaffin $2 saying AJ versus Triple H desperately needed for Mania.
So we what 2 years in a row of no Triple H in Mania. That's a record.
Yeah.
Alejandro Villarreal $2 saying does Bryan take the pin so Edge can become champ?
Maybe. I mean, it depends on how they build that. I think it'll be a telegraph if they do something where Edge loses on night one. I think that would be done for him to lose or win on night two. But I don't see Edge taking the pin if there's a pinfall in this match.
Oh, okay. Yeah, with Daniel, I mean, like, how much lower can he get in terms of his status? Jackson Callens, $4.99. Wild prediction of what we might get at SummerSlam with what we have in front of us at Mania. Any ideas?
I'll make the optimistic prediction that SummerSlam will be probably on the West Coast, probably in LA or somewhere on the West Coast, and it will have probably more fans than at that point than we've seen.
Yeah. Is he talking match-wise or just like the venue?
Oh, I think the venue. I think Justin, to your point, but I think he's talking match-wise.
Match-wise, yeah.
I would say Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley.
Hope so.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Maybe Becky is back by then. I could see Becky versus Bianca or Becky versus Rhea. Man, Becky versus Rhea would be so awesome. Yeah. There's a lot they could do.
And you wonder by that point, is Cena done doing Hollywood stuff? Can he step away from Hollywood? I mean, John Cena was in a tape match last Mania, and then prior to that, Mania before, he surprisingly came out of New York into the old school John Cena Thugonomics gimmick as a surprise. I mean, there's a thirst there of getting Cena back into some kind of a groove, even if it's just for a build for one big pay-per-view.
SummerSlam makes sense, man. That's a crowd pleasing, but maybe this year, maybe that's a surprise. That's what's exciting about this is that last year they really had to scramble and improvise. And this year, do they pull out of the stops? I to that point, Justin, I do think they're going to wait till SummerSlam and then try and make it literally the biggest event of 2021. Mm-hmm. Where's SummerSlam this year?
We don't know. I think the Barclays residency is done. I thought pre-pandemic I had heard that the plan was for it to go then to Staples for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Obviously, that did not happen this past year because everything got thrown to shit. But I thought Staples was lined up to have a couple of years of it. Yeah,
I seem to recall that as well. Justin Lopez, $4.99 says, rumor is that they're moving the Thunderdome to the University of South Florida, the USF Sundome.
All right. Well, again, but back to my point, is it, do you do the Thunderdome, and like you're going to go from fans back to the Thunderdome? Is that going to be acceptable enough, or do you slowly start to figure out can we dismantle or push the Thunderdome back and have at least 1,000 fans between the ring and
Right.
Thunderdome screens? Can we have some fans, and then the Thunderdome screens are kind of complimentary?
Yeah. Combo Breaker saying hoping for Daniel Bryan versus Pete Dunne at TakeOver.
Yeah, I could see it. And, again, Daniel Bryan is in a crunch. So if the plan is that Daniel Bryan is revealed as this best wrestler in the world who's taking on Pete Dunne, I know that's a match Daniel Bryan would love to have. And that would be a satisfying payoff for how much they're building up Pete Dunne for something. So if he's not going to be part of the WrestleMania picture, I'd be fine with that.
Breaking news, WWE has come to terms on the release of Andrade.
Oh, good.
There
news.
it is. Wow.
42 seconds ago.
Wow. Well, that kind of, I said earlier, it's one end of the spectrum or the other. There we go.
Yeah. There you have it.
I hope he doesn't just immediately go to AEW. I hope he explores his options. There's a lot of wrestling scenes that are going to be opening back up that I think he'd be great in.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about, man, it's the textbook, right? It's the blueprint, to borrow a phrase, of the bad NXT to main roster transition. Of you come in, they have half an idea of what to do with you, and then quickly lose interest in that, and then you go to the mid card, then you're wrestling on main event, and then you're in catering.
This one hurts. It's like I know after that Gargano and Andrade match, a lot of people were talking up Gargano went up. At that point, I said and I felt that Andrade was the best worker in the company, in the entire company. I felt like he stood out in that match more than Gargano did, as great as both of them were. And to go from that, in my eyes, to now out of the WWE, it's just, especially with Zelina Vega and how hot they were, the fact that they didn't get as far as I think they should have is really sad.
Yeah,
So
and
hot.
and we always hear of WWE's always looking for that next Rey Mysterio, right? For a decade, it was Sin Cara. The original one didn't work out, and then it's like, is it Dominic Mysterio? Like they're always looking for that star for the Latin audience, and in Andrade, you thought you had it. I mean, I know that it seemed like his English promos weren't necessarily where they wanted it just yet, but God, the work rate and the potential, I don't know. It's just, and then it's so funny. He was paired, him and Zelina were such a great presentation, and then they both have been so disgruntled and have found the same fate. There you go, Alfred. AEW, in 90 days, once Andrade's over, they recreate and just have Zelina with Andrade, but they do it.
They can do it
the right way.
Jared Wilson asking the real questions. Who do you guys think is the most underrated movie villain? He thinks Anton from No Country for Old Men.
Underrated Papa Doc. No, not Papa Doc. What about? That's a good question. I'm gonna have to think about that. I think Bane from The Dark Knight Rises was incredible. I thought.
Good.
Yeah. No, I just thought it was great. I thought in terms of doing that character justice, it's like a smart goon, like a big kind of juiced up guy, but not an idiot. Very calculated, very Machiavellian. I love that character. I thought that was one of my favorite supervillain characters ever, and I think it was underrated.
Vigo from Ghostbusters 2.
Really?
Just screws with you, man. It's a painting. He comes alive. He's coming back to steal a baby to be in the 21st century.
Alfred, have you watched the Harley Quinn series on HBO Max?
No, I have not. Is it good? I've heard mixed things about it.
It's funny. Ron Funches is on it as King Shark.
Oh.
The Bane is hilarious on there. The guy that got doing the voice is like spot on, but there's so much comedy on that show.
Yeah,
it's really, really good. But I love Ron Funches. He's fantastic on it. They've got they got Tony Hale. They've got just this all-star voice cast. It's such a funny show.
I'll check it out. Okay, that's good. That's good to hear.
It's very adult. It's good.
Is this on the DC streaming app that they have, or
it was, and it moved over to HBO Max.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's very good. Underrated villains, though. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I feel like everyone you see those think pieces, right? Like, here's why Cliffhanger was the real thinking man's action movie follow-up to Die Hard. And it's like, yeah, it was. But like, you know what I mean? Like there's no hot take, I think, on great villains. I feel like for me, you want to talk about, I think, is like an underrated action movie with a great villain and a great twist. I think Reindeer Games with Ben Affleck is like just a fantastic like B movie, well done, lots of layers, lots of stuff, but it's the type of thing you would have watched on cable in the middle of the night in the 90s. I'm like, that was actually a really good movie, but I don't know. I feel like everyone sort of gets their due these days,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Russians and the Equalizer. I'm a big fan of the Denzel Equalizer movie.
Oh my God. I was just about to bring up Denzel in Training Day because he's not for most of that. I mean, not to spoil it, but he turns heel at the end. And boy, is he a great heel when he does.
He's shielded by the badge. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a really good heel.
Tough. I liked Joe Pantoliano in Running Scared with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. Thought he was fantastic in that. Oh my God. That was the buddy cop movie before buddy cop movies. We even called them buddy cop movies.
Wow.
Like it came out in 85, maybe 86, takes place in Chicago. But so like, why am I blanking his name? Jimmy Smits is the main bad guy, but Joe Pantoliano is a very funny movie. It's a very good buddy cop action film. Highly recommend it.
Wow.
Brian Cyrus, $10, saying conflicted. On one hand, I like to see Edge win after all he did to come back. But on the other hand, I like to see Reigns continue to hold the title for almost a year and lose it to Big E at SummerSlam.
I mean, that would be fine. Something to follow with Edge. And it happened again. This is Edge's first SmackDown match in a decade, and they built it up. And the ratings were very disappointed. At least the overnights came in 10% lower than the week prior. And Edge, every step of the way when he's been on TV and advertised for matches, has not translated to big viewership numbers, which has been very disappointing.
Yeah, it's almost like a portion of the audience that's there every day now forgot or was not present to when he was a main eventer for them in his original run. Because you're right, the numbers have not translated as to what you'd think. I mean, there was a lot of buzz when he came back at the Rumble, in 2020, but yeah, week to week numbers have not been strong.
Dean Regan saying Andrade about to be Miro's new gaming partner.
Oh boy.
That's a whole other thing. But
it's not often we get news broken while we're on the air. We have no time.
Yeah, that feels great. Yeah,
I'm sitting here.
I just opened Twitter. I saw the tweet. Chris Pantaleo, $4.99 said it'd be cool if he went to AEW with the La Sombra gimmick and attacked Pac and took over the Death Triangle with Zelina as the manager.
Go to ROH. I think he needs to be with Roosh or something. Like AEW just has too much. If I'm somebody on the outside of AEW looking in right now, I'd be worried about how much I'd be featured on there until they get all these other shows going. Like there's just way too much talent. A guy like Andrade could go under the radar in AEW just like he did in WWE.
Yeah.
It's also the money game. I don't know what.
G. Lee saying the most underrated movie villain is Mrs. Voorhees in the first Friday the 13th movie. It's a pretty good one. Like she was legit scary and like legit crazy scary. First Friday the 13th, it's weird. You guys have seen that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like nobody talks about that because it's so different than the other movies, but it's legit. I am here for Santa Claus from the Santa Claus who forces a new life.
Put on the suit.
Okay, guys, let's wrap it up. That was Fastlane tomorrow night. Justin and Miyu and Raj tomorrow night?
I'm not on tomorrow night.
Alfred, Miyu and Raj tomorrow night?
No, I don't think it's me either.
I have no clue who I'm working with tomorrow night.
You and Raj.
Yeah, maybe. Raj is fun when he's not so concerned with doing the show.
When he's NWO Raj.
He's got some Raj juice in him.
Yes. Let's see. I'm looking for you. Send me an email. Matt Morgan's going to be back this week.
I'm back.
Cool.
Alfred and I are back Wednesday. I don't know if Matt's with us Wednesday or not. I know Alfred and I Wednesday.
It's me, Raj, and Issa tomorrow night.
Oh, that'll be a fun show.
That will be a very fun show. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, she's going to be salty. Make sure, because she's her and her Roman fandom, make sure you hammer to her that Roman tapped out.
And Shinsuke lost.
And Shinsuke, drive her nuts. And tell her Brock had a bad sexual episode. She'll be in a real bad mood.
And again, we want to thank the sponsor of this episode. People in the chat are saying, Glenn, when are you going back on stereo? Well, here's the deal. Matt Morgan and I are likely making our triumphant return to stereo this week. Download that up for iOS or Android. If you've listened to past shows, we talk about so many different things on there. We take as many of your questions as possible. We always say, we're going to do 45 minutes, and we end up going 3 hours just because you guys have such awesome questions. We love doing the shows on stereo. Be sure to download that app for iOS or Android. Follow Glenn Rubenstein on there. Follow Matt Morgan. Follow NYC Demon Diva. And you guys got to get on there so we can start plugging that as well. Stereo, the live social conversation app. They've been an excellent sponsor of the Wrestling Inc. podcast, and we thank you all for participating in our weekly stereo shows on the app. And when you follow me on there, you can go back and listen to Matt and my past shows. So if you feel like, hey, you're missing out on something, there's a good 15 hours of content on there. If you want to hear me and Matt Morgan talking and getting really personal and uncensored, download that stereo app and give us a follow on there. Thank you to Alfred and Justin for joining me tonight, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow on the Wrestling Inc. podcast.